Fishing is part of First Nations culture and identity. It's also a constitutionally protected right. Treaties, crisis, and reconciliation is what our next guest, former Elsipogtog First Nation Chief Susan Levi Peters, is educating us on. Susan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Maggie.
So what is really happening on the ground now, especially when it comes to this fisheries crisis?
Well, there's a lot of conflict happening because there's a lot of misunderstanding between the definition of moderate livelihood and who has the right to it. So there's been a lot of lot of stuff happening. There was boats burning. There was stuff happening, but it has kind of died down a little bit now. There's been more negotiations going on.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What are the efforts in trying to solve this dispute that you know of?
Well, actually, couple of the First Nations in Nova Scotia got together and they bought the fishery company, the Clearwater company, 50% of it. So I think what's happening now is that my people are getting together and they're getting involved more in a moderate livelihood of getting involved. It's just of just going out fishing and getting into disputes and all that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. That's new news that Mi'kmaq First Nations people have just purchased 50% of Clearwater fisheries. How can you see that maybe changing this dispute in the near future?
Oh, it's going to change it a lot because now we're part of the society, part of the economics. Like before, we were more of a liability. Nobody wanted to work with us, and when we talked about moderate livelihood, we would be arrested or we would be confronted. Now with this. Is showing there's a lot of partnership and people are trying to learn about each other and working together so that we won't have another of what happened in Digby or even what happened here in New Brunswick 7 years ago. So we're moving forward and it's very positive and very overwhelming because it's very hard when you're in the front lines and it's very hard when you face poverty or you're homeless or jobless and you see it in the media saying that First Nation people are getting millions and all this and you're back home facing poverty or homelessness.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And then when you go out to try to earn a moderate livelihood, then you're criminalized. So there needs to be a lot of education, and that's happening right now with a lot of social media, a lot of sharing of stories like you are today. So like we are today, like sharing it with Canada. So yes, it's we're moving in a very very positive direction
Right.
from where we've come from. Yeah.
As a Christian, what should be the faith response to this dispute, to this action that we're seeing right now in Nova Scotia?
See, what it is like to understand us as Mi'kmaq people. Like we have these peace and friendship treaties that were signed in the 1700s, and all it is that we have peace and friendship with each other, and that's why Canada is a diverse country. You have multi different cultures here in Canada, and that's part of the treaty that everybody is welcome as long as you protect Mother Earth for seven generations to come, and you respect each other's laws, and that goes with us. So we have, but unfortunately, for the last 100 years since the residential school and everything, we've been put in little reserves and we faced the cycle of abuse and all that. So now we're coming out, and historically we were known as the peacekeepers. We had treaties with the Pope going back, with France, with Great Britain, and they're all peace and friendship treaties.
Right.
And all these things that we can all live in peace and harmony amongst each other. So it's for me, being a historian, like studying my histories and being brought up with it, seeing something like this, having a positive agreement or a resolution coming that way is good. It's very positive for us because we face a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
Even with the murdered and missing Indigenous women, like it's hard for us to go even outside our reserve. because
You're
of the
looking,
culture shock and everything.
you're seeing that this is hopeful. This is a hopeful transition and a hopeful change.
Definitely, yes,
Okay.
very hopeful, and it's a very something to look forward to, and something that's our kids will have jobs or will have a future, a positive future. So yes, it's very hopeful.
All right, Susan Levi Peters, thank you so much for joining us and informing us about what's happening in this dispute and crisis among many Indigenous peoples. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Maggie.